They get 20 weeks of assistance. Evan McMorris-Santoro is White House reporter at BuzzFeed and is making his debut today on the cycle. Evan, it's great to have you.
It's great to be here on this blizzard day. I'm very excited. It is a blizzard,
but it's nice and warm in here. We are very lucky.
I'll be here tomorrow, too, if you need me, most likely, it sounds like.
You won't be leaving the studio. Yeah, we'll just sleep overnight. That sounds good.
He's booking himself there.
So, Evan, while the president is in beautiful Hawaii, the head of the National Economic Council, Gene Sperling, says these benefits need to stay on the books as long as unemployment is high. But you also have the national rate now at 7%. So at what point do you say, look, unemployment benefits were meant to be temporary to help people get back on their feet? We actually need to start getting our fiscal house in order.
Well, we're going to see that argument play out now, actually. What we're seeing is the strategy Democrats had during the budget negotiations play out. They decided not to include these unemployment benefits in that budget fight, maybe thinking that there was no way Republicans would agree to it. They would blow up the whole budget deal that we have going now. So they punted it until now, and now we're going to go ahead and have the talk about unemployment insurance that Democrats really want to have, the White House really wants to have. People who I know, smarter reporters than me that cover Congress more than I do, have told me that basically what we're looking at is a strategy by Democrats to sort of they did with the Violence Against Women Act, in which they're going to try to pass this thing out of the Senate, send it to the House, and then kind of shame House Republicans into doing something that they do not want to do, which is to extend these unemployment benefits.
Well, and just to add a little bit of context to the debate, while we are seeing unemployment levels declining, long-term unemployment remains stuck at very high levels, and we also have seen the deficit falling at a record pace. So it seems like this is something that we need to do, since this Congress can't seem to get their act together to deal with the actual unemployment crisis. But I wanted to ask you about another part of the labor market. We're hearing a lot about pushes to increase the federal minimum wage, and we're seeing across the country states taking matters into their own hands. 13 states are set to have an increase in the minimum wage this week in 2014. Another 11 states in Washington, D.C. will be considering such measures. Do you think that those state initiatives are going to put pressure on the federal government to act, or do you think we're going to see people making the case that, well, the states are taking care of it, so we don't need federal government action?
Well, supporters certainly hope that these state referendums and state actions will pressure the federal government. But the federal government itself, I mean, the leader of the federal government, President Obama, is going to make a big push about minimum wage as well. This is a big topic that Democrats want to take into the election cycle, into 2014. They think that talking about the minimum wage leads to talk about income equality issues, leads to talk about the wage gap, which they think puts them on the right path to keeping the Senate and maybe expanding their numbers in the House. So regardless of what happens with these state initiatives, you will see federal talk of the minimum wage. Whether or not it means that it's going to happen based on the political dynamics that we have in Washington right now, which, as you mentioned, are as frozen as this blizzard we're about to have, then that's remains to be seen. But the discussion will definitely happen in Washington about the minimum wage this year.
Evan, you're doing great for your first time on the cycle, but you haven't had your RE question yet, so that's forthcoming. But right now, let's deal with the temporary injunction by Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor halting Obamacare's mandate requiring some employers to provide health insurance for birth control, a case brought by a group of nuns who did not want to provide birth control or pay a $2.5 million penalty for not doing so. Seems to me this is going to be a challenge that we're going to deal with continually in dealing with Obamacare, moving into an Obamacare America, where we want to have universal health care, but we also want to protect religious freedom.
Yeah, look, I mean, we're moving into phase 2 of the Obamacare political debate now. The phase 1 was Republicans trying to stop the law before it became law. That was what led to this government shutdown. That's what led to all the fights about defunding, all that stuff that happened before. That passed. The law is now in place. People now have it. And now comes the fights about how the law works. Does it provide enough access to doctors you want to go to? Does it have low enough copays? Does it protect religious freedom, as you're mentioning? All these sort of implementation fights are the next phase of the Obamacare fight, and that's going to be throughout 2014, throughout the election season. Any massive change like this requires people to pay close attention, and it's going to require a lot of sort of legislative tweaking and people paying attention to it and criticizing it. So we're just getting into that now.
Yeah, and when you look at the overall sweep of this, I think it's pretty clear with the new numbers the White House put out that you got roughly 6 million people now getting some kind of coverage, 2.1 million through those federal state exchanges, another 4 million through public programs like Medicare and CHIP, and that doesn't even count another 3.1 million who are now on their parents' plan under 26, according to HHS. Just politically, why do you think the White House has, in some sense, undersold these numbers? I mean, there's a fair argument to say that 9 million Americans have coverage through this plan, and yet we don't always hear the full totals together.
Well, you know, they wanted more people. I mean, we talk about losing those couple of weeks, that key initial month when they were going to press a lot to get young people to sign up and a lot of other people to sign up. But also right now, I think that their message right now from the White House has been one of, look, the law has just kicked in. We expect there to be some glitches in sort of people who have insurance for the first time, figuring out if they can use it or not, and trying to distance themselves from those errors and those problems and put them on the insurance companies, which are now, of course, the private insurers are the ones who actually provide insurance to people under Obamacare. So the White House, I think, is more focused on not getting stuck with another bunch of glitches and another bunch of I don't know, snafus, I guess, that caused them all the negative attention during the early phases of Obamacare sign-up.
Ooh, snafus. I haven't heard that yet on the cycle. McMorris-Santoro, thanks so much. We should have you back. I think you passed with flying colors.
Depends on the weather.
We'll see you tomorrow. All right, thanks so much.